Good day, and welcome to the Advanced Ground Lesson for Flightline. If you haven't already, please make sure to see the Ground Basics lesson first, as this lesson will enhance your understanding of ground control from there. In the Ground Basics lesson, you learned the basics of what ground does and the surrounding phraseology. This lesson will take a look at how to handle more complex situations and the general rules for handling multiple aircraft at once. To start off, there is one important point that was omitted in the Ground Basics lesson. As you remember, ground is responsible for taxiways between the gates and the nearest runway. What should you do when an aircraft needs to cross a runway then? Well, ground is not allowed to authorize runway crossings, so you would need to instead give taxi instructions up to the first runway the aircraft needs to cross. You don't give taxi instructions past the runway crossing because you do not control the taxiways between runways. Taking TOFON as an example, an aircraft taxiing to runway 27 left from taxiway Bravo may be told, runway 27 left, taxi via Foxtrot 2, Golf, hold short of runway 27 right. The runway assignment that the taxi instructions start with doesn't change, but you won't give instructions past the runway they need to cross. With that out of the way, let's look at how to handle multiple aircraft at once. One of the most important things when you're busy and top-down is to talk to aircraft in the right order. That is to say, you need to set your priorities for what needs to be done. These priorities apply even as you go up the ranks, so always keep them in mind. A moving aircraft almost always has priority over an aircraft that isn't moving, for the simple reason that moving aircraft are moving. It takes time for them to stop if you need them to, and when you start controlling aircraft in the air, they can't stop. For example, if you have a taxiing aircraft and one requesting clearance parked at the gate, deal with the taxiing aircraft first. Think about how long it takes to give a clearance too. Faster moving aircraft should also have priority over a slower moving one. For example, as you learned last lesson, give priority to an aircraft taxiing behind an aircraft pushing back. While it does take practice, just in general, keep in mind which tasks are most time sensitive and also how long a transmission might take. And always resolve traffic situations, i.e. aircraft about to collide, before anything. More specific to ground are right-of-way rules. These rules guide you in which aircraft should go first should two aircraft come to an intersection at the same time. These right-of-way rules are the same as driving a car. In the first scenario, two aircraft going straight meet at an intersection. The aircraft which is on the right of the other aircraft has the right-of-way. From the red pilot's perspective, the blue plane is on their right, therefore the blue aircraft has the right-of-way. In the second case, you have an aircraft going straight through an intersection and an aircraft turning onto the same taxiway. In these cases, since the turning aircraft will slow down to turn, the aircraft going straight has the right-of-way. In the last, unlikely case, if two aircraft are going straight towards each other, obviously the aircraft turning out of the way has the right-of-way. This scenario should be avoided at all times, however. Now, what tools do we have to accomplish these right-of-ways? First, you can tell an aircraft to hold short of either a taxiway or runway. This tells the pilot to stop just before entering the specified taxiway or runway. If an aircraft needs to cross a runway during their taxi, you are required to tell the pilot to hold short of the runway, and the pilot must read it back. You should not, however, explicitly tell aircraft to hold short of the runway they are departing from, as they already know to do so. Secondly, you can tell aircraft to hold position. This tells the pilot to stop right where they are, though keep in mind it will take a little bit of time from when you issue the instruction to apply the brakes. Optionally, you can also tell the pilot why they need to hold position by using the word caution followed by the obstacle. With both hold short and hold position, when the conflict is resolved, tell the aircraft to continue taxi. The pilot will continue on the taxiways previously assigned to them unless you specify a new taxi route with this instruction. Lastly, you can tell aircraft to give way to another aircraft, essentially telling them to yield and let the specified aircraft pass before continuing taxi on their own. When using give way, you must specify the livery, aircraft type, and where the pilot will see the aircraft. Ideally, the pilot can already see the specified aircraft when the instruction is given, so they aren't guessing, but it is not a requirement. Let's look at some examples. Japan Air 212 Tree is taxiing to runway 27 left, which means they will need to cross runway 27 right, which means they will need to receive hold short instructions. The taxi route is shown in red, and the controller would say, Japan Air 212 Tree, runway 27 left, taxi via Foxtrot, Hotel, Golf, hold short of runway 27 right approach end. You could also just say hold short of runway 27 right. Either works. American 459er is on taxiway Delta requesting taxi, but we need to wait for the Japan Airlines aircraft to pass first. Let's try using hold position. The controller would say, American 459er, hold position, caution Japan Air 787, passing right to left on Foxtrot. After the 787 passed, the controller would then issue taxi instructions. Give way could have also been used, so let's look at that with TUI 868. Since Japan Air 212 tree is going straight while TUI 868 is turning onto Gulf, Japan Air has the right of way. The controller would say, TUI 868, give way to the Japan Air Boeing 787 eastbound on Gulf. Next, let's talk about what we can do when we encounter newer pilots that are not able to read the ground charts as well. That's what Progressive Taxi is for. With Progressive Taxi, you act more like a GPS and tell the pilot when to turn right or left rather than using taxiway names. You can optionally tell the pilot to expect Progressive Taxi, however, chances are they won't understand what that means. Pilots can also request Progressive Taxi if they want, however. As for the phraseology, tell aircraft to start taxiing straight, then give the first turn, such as turn left next taxiway or turn right third taxiway. Only give one turn at a time. As an example of this in use, let's look at Qantas 1210. The controller first starts with Qantas 1210, begin taxiing straight, turn right next taxiway. Once the aircraft is on hotel, the controller tells them to turn left second taxiway, to go past Juliet and then turn left on Gulf. Remember that the turn direction is from the pilot's perspective. After turning onto Gulf, the controller waits a bit before giving the next turn to simplify things both for the pilot and the controller. And once they pass Papa, the controller says to take the second right turn and also hands them off at the same time since there's little point in waiting. Depending on the pilot, you may also want to tell them to hold short of the runway just to be safe, even though they should do so on their own. Let's wrap up this lesson with the last little bits of phraseology you may find useful. When describing the livery of an aircraft with either give way or caution, you may use the word company to describe a livery that is the same as the aircraft you are talking to. For example, when telling a Qantas aircraft to give way to another Qantas, you may say, give way to the company 747. The word expedite tells an aircraft to hurry up or do something faster. It should especially be used in order to prevent a dangerous situation from forming. If an imminent threat to the safety of an aircraft has already formed, however, you should use the word immediately to indicate the urgency of the situation. Instead of using give way, you may also tell an aircraft to follow a nearby aircraft, though this requires that the aircraft they follow already be visible by the pilot. Hold short instructions for a runway which will be crossed must still be included. If the pilot needs to give way to the aircraft before following them, the follow instruction also implicitly tells the pilot to give way. Lastly, for aircraft pushing back, instead of saying give way to an aircraft taxiing behind them, you would instead say behind and describe the aircraft they should wait for to pass before pushing back. That was a lot, so make sure to take your time familiarizing yourself with the concepts. It may also be helpful for you to imagine a pattern of taxi routes at a given airport that will create the least conflict between departing and arriving traffic. When you're ready, just with the delivery exam, request for the ground exam in ATC Trainee Chat or in ATC Chat. Once you pass, you'll be supervised on ground, but you can still control delivery unsupervised. Good luck, let us know if you have any questions, and with that, we'll see you on the scopes.